it's Webs here, and it's time to crash our way to victory with Enhancement Burn Shaman. Inara Stormcrash is actually a card that I've been wanting to use for quite a while now, and because she is sadly rotating out without getting any additional support after the initial wave of enhancement support, I thought the best way to actually abuse her would be to try to figure out which weapon would actually be the best weapon to use with her, where you would want to get 2 attacks with it instead of 1 on a turn. And the conclusion I came with was Rune Dagger. The idea behind using these 2 cards together is the fact that you can get 2 spell damage instead of 1, and it is honestly the best option you can actually use with Inara in my opinion, mainly due to the fact that most of the weapons for Shaman are actually anti-synergistic with Inara Stormcrash, as it would either make her A, evolve, B, be a target for the weapon, or C, it already gives you 1 Fury, so you wouldn't want to use it with her. Rune Dagger seems to be the best possible option to actually combo her out with some type of weapon, and it allows you to actually scale up the damage on the storm strikes if you really need to. The basic idea for this deck is to scale your spell damage as much as humanly possible so you can finish your opponent off in 1 turn, much like a stereotypical Burn Shaman deck. For the Mulligan guide of this deck, you're going to want to keep cards in your opening hand such as Sleepbreaker as a way to give you some type of draw power in your opening hand, Landslide if you're facing a bunch of aggro-based decks, Frostbite as a just good removal tool for your opponent's minions, and it will also delay some of the spell-based decks if they do play an early game minion and you can get honorable kill. Primordial Studies is also really good to keep in your opening hand, as this will allow you to generate a Novice Zapper most of the time, or a Lady Vash. Those are probably your best 2 options 99% of the time when you're using Primordial Studies in this deck. And Novice Zapper is really good to keep in your opening hand, as this would also trigger the second effect of Landslide and also increase the damage on landslides to waves of damage that it actually puts out on your opponent's board, which should be able to kill most of your opponent's board. With that being said, let's go find some games. Okay, time for a game against Rogue. So we're going to mulligan away basically everything here except for the overdraft, mainly because of the fact that we can actually trade in the overdraft to try to do something on turn 1. Getting a lightning bolt is actually pretty good too. Getting a second one is actually really good too. Okay, so their quest line, that seems to be the default Rogue deck nowadays. We're going to play down the Sleepbreaker and then pass the turn back. Alright, so they play down a minion and then they'll probably pass it back. We get a Serpent Shrine Portal, which is actually pretty neat. And that's a really funny thing that we could have got off of that. Actually, probably the best minion we could, because Rogue doesn't have any easy ways to deal with it. Okay, they have Informant, but it is too low to actually do anything. We can just freeze it next turn. Rune Dagger actually allows us to remove it from the board instantly and buff up our minion, which is even funnier. Then we can just pass it back. The longer this stays on the board, to win the game. Foxy Fraud, getting an SI Agent, which doesn't kill our minion, just buffs it up even more. Well, that deals with our minion, but we should be able to still use our minion, I guess, because they didn't attack into it for some weird reason. Well, we can clear out their board, use overdraft and attack with our minion, and then they're at 1 HP and there's no way they can come back from this. Edwin's a little bit too late there, my friend. That kills the minion, but because they don't have a taunt, we'll just be able to poke them with our little dagger and win the game. Alrighty, time to face Warrior, and if their portrait is anything to tell, it's probably Questline, which is actually one of the better matchups for this deck, so that's actually pretty nice. We're going to mulligan away our hero card and multicaster, keeping the Rune Dagger and Sleepbreaker as ways to give us more draw power and additional spell damage. Those 2 are not what we wanted to see, but the Snowfall Guardian is pretty decent in this matchup. Yep, it is Questline, so we're just going to pass the turn back. You're going to armor up. Wonder which variant of questline this is actually going to be. We're going to play down the Sleepbreaker, pass the turn back. Shiver their Timbers is not something I expected out of questline Pirate deck. A lot of people have cut it. I guess there are a more control style variant. We're going to play down the Rune Dagger, And then we could attack and then use the lightning bolt just to do 4 damage. Then pass the turn back. We have the 2 overdrafts, so we can do some additional damage next turn if we really feel like doing it like that. There's a cargo guard. Brilliant Macaw doesn't really do us much. We're probably going to want to play the windshield to freeze it to try to see what we can get. Maybe we can actually get some removal to remove it. Frostbite is actually pretty good if it wasn't Questline Warrior, since they don't run too many spells in their deck. At least stereotypically they don't. Okay, so we don't really have much to do. We can just shuffle back the overdrafts to try to get some other cards out of our deck. And those are some pretty good cards, actually, in this matchup. Just going to sit on the weapon because we don't have any spells. Well, that's a shock. I don't understand why they're playing that so soon, but it doesn't really matter to us. Either freeze it, or we could try to kill it with some of our landslide. Actually, we could kill it with landslide even if we don't play anything else. And we did get the second Rune Dagger, which is pretty nice. We're going to kill Mr. Smite because we have the chance to. That should lower the % chance of them ever having enough damage to just kill us in one turn. Though using landslide on one target feels a little bit bad. Okay, they're going to kill the Zapper. Makes sense. We are... Well, that's interesting. I did not expect that card. Well, we can play the dagger down this turn. And then we can play the Macaw to draw 3 cards, I think. Though we probably should have played the Primordial Studies just so we could draw even more. But oh well. We can go face. And then just pass the turn back. Grabbing the Zapper for next turn or the following turn, depending if we want to use our hero card. Or do a big push turn with Inara and Stormstrike. Okay, so we could freeze the entire board here, but we're probably going to want to get rid of the Cannoneer as quickly as possible to remove as much damage as we humanly can. So we probably are going to delay the hero card for now. Actually, no, we could still do the hero card. I guess we are going to delay it. We're going to kill the Cannoneer with the Stormstrike, attack into their minion, and then attack their face. Sad thing about doing it here is we don't actually get any additional spell power on any spell that actually matters. It would have been nice to use it on a landslide, but oh well. Okay, they're going to kill Inara. It doesn't really shock me, but it is kind of sad. We can kill both of their minions next turn anyways, so it doesn't really matter. And we can even use our hero card if we really feel like it. Okay, so we're going to use our hero card. We're going to do damage to the entire board. And then we're going to heal ourselves a little bit just to be safe. And then we can attack into the Cannoneer. And then use our hero power and pass the turn back. Okay, so they can get some armor gain here. We're going to want to start freezing the board, I think. Because if we can freeze the board as much as humanly possible, we should be able to just stall out until we have enough spell damage in our hand to actually finish them off. And it isn't like they have more removal tools, right? They might have a second Coerce, but that's probably it, if I had to guess. Getting a 5/1 weapon, though, is a little frustrating since they can instantly kill our minion. Especially because they got a Cannoneer also. Okay, so we are going to have to kill the entire board, but we can do that pretty easily with the amount of spell damage I think we have in our hand. There's an overdraft, which is pretty nice. We can play down the 2 zappers. Then we can freeze the entire board. Use landslide to kill everything besides the captain. And then we can use the overdraft to do a bunch of damage to face, and then pass the turn back. Well, that's a little bit annoying. I don't understand what is my luck. When facing Questline Warrior, they always get the perfect weapon that they need. The taunt minion is a little bit annoying too. Macaw is actually really funny here. We can just freeze the board again. I don't know why I did what I just did there. That was a stupid misplay. Well, at least we get to freeze the board. I guess we get an extra 3 damage, but that could make us miss lethal depending on what they get here. They get Gorehowl, so they're probably going to want to go face, I'd assume. We need 1 minion to actually win this. If we don't, we probably actually lose. And that's actually the perfect top deck. Oh man, that's perfect lethal right there too. Alright, time to face Mage. So we're going to get rid of the Brilliant Macaw, and then it's a toss-up between keeping the Primordial Studies or the Lightning Bolt. But because we're going first, we're probably going to keep the Studies over the Lightning Bolt, just because of the fact that we should be able to generate a Zapper, at least at a highly likelihood. Though drawing into those instead are not what we wanted to see. We're going to get the Zapper here, or the Lady Vash. It really just depends. Lady Vash actually gives us a turn 2 play, so I guess it makes more sense. I'm going to play down Vash. Okay, so Wildfire, so it is another Hero Power Mage. I'm going to use the Serpentine Portal. That's an interesting card to actually generate. We have 2 primes instead of 1, even though we don't run either. Okay, so we can use the Storm Strike to get rid of their minion and do some face damage to them. Okay, so they are just hero power. It's going to be a little bit annoying to get rid of that minion on board while also having the future of having Fire Eye. But if we can actually get our healing online before they can play the Fire Eye, we should be in a pretty good position. Okay, let's see what they draw here. We get a 5-cost spell. I'm interested to see what that 5-cost spell actually is. Getting Vash is kind of funny. We can attack and then play one of the Guardians. Ah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Well, we can freeze the entire board again if we really feel like it. Or we can use Vash. It really just depends. We should have probably hero powered first. Okay, so they play down their hero card. I think that's a little bit too early, to be honest. But they do get a little bit of extra damage out. And it hits the Macaw. Of course it hits the Macaw. Well, we should be able to freeze or kill their entire board next turn. Which is fine, I guess. Or we could freeze their board. Freezing their board might be a little bit more funny. And again, we forgot the hero power. I'm really bad at remembering to hero power before putting down the Snowfall Guardians or the Macaws. But it doesn't always cost me the game, so I guess it's just something I need to get better at not doing. A Drake Fire Amulet, which probably is what they wanted to actually use earlier. We're gonna kill their entire board. I'm happy that they played their hero card before they actually got a second mass polymorph, which is actually pretty good for us. Next turn we can play the Vash to actually basically do a bunch of damage, or draw into a bunch of damage that we wouldn't normally have. It really depends if they put down a minion or not. They're going to play down Multicaster, which is really good for us. As long as they can't freeze our face, we should be fine, and we should win the game next turn. I'm going to use Vash to get 3 cards. Getting Lightning Bloom, which doesn't do any damage. Landslide, which doesn't do any damage. But Frostbite does do some damage, and we can hero power, use Lightning Bloom, and then use both of our Frostbites to win the game. Alright, now that we're through the games, let's discuss my final thoughts of the deck. Overall, this deck actually performs decently well. I think I had like a 48-ish% win rate throughout about 20-ish games with this deck. Though having the enhancement package in this deck, I don't know how necessary it actually is, but it is a really cool idea to try to use Inara to actually scale up your damage with Rune Dagger. I wanted to use Sorceress Substitute, but there was no actual room in the deck, because honestly, Snowfall Guardian is just a way better 6-drop than Sorcerer's Substitute, especially because you can copy it with Brilliant Macaws, which is the main battle cry you're going to want to copy with the Brilliant Macaws. Though if you are low on cards in your hand, you can actually combo the Macaws with the Multicasters, so you can draw a bunch of cards and finish off your opponent that way. There's a lot of draw power in this deck, which is why it's actually pretty consistent when it actually goes off. Though you're not going to probably get the full combo with the Rune Dagger and Inara Stormcrash every single game, but it's still a really funny combo that not a lot of people are going to expect. And overall, I could easily recommend this deck, especially if you've been wanting to use Stormcrash in some type of deck before she rotates out. And this is probably going to be your last best chance to actually do it, because I don't think there's actually a better home for her than this deck. Maybe you could try to figure something out with using Sucker Hook to evolve your weapon to try to get some other class's weapon as a way to maybe successfully get something that's actually better than any Shaman weapon that has any synergy with Inara. But honestly, I do really think this is probably your best chance to actually make Inara work before she actually rotates out. And like always, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, bye bye.